The ability to fuse practically anything to your shield leads to some incredibly useful and funny interactions. From explosive shields to skating on frozen meat, there are so many unique combinations of things you can fuse to your shield. Out of all these things, I wanted to rank what the best possible fusion would be, based on the availability of the item, the usefulness, and overall how much fun the fusion is to use. So let's just get started straight away with number 5. At the number 5 spot, I'm putting Zonai Wings, which you're probably either super confused about, or you know the secret power of this fusion. The unassuming looking fusion actually changes your shield jump height, subtly but just enough so you can enter bullet time from a shield jump. The ability alone is super powerful, as often fights can be instantly won from just entering bullet time and firing a few well-placed shots. The fact that you don't have to rely on terrain to activate bullet time makes this a super powerful fusion. This fusion is especially useful when fighting stronger enemies such as Lynels, as the ability to critical hit at any time makes the fights much easier. This can be used as an alternative to using Kisai's to lock onto enemies, and actually allows you to pretty much have aimbot on any arrow fusion you wish. Of course, this is the main reason why you would fuse a wing to your shield, but the shield fusion can actually be used outside of battle as yet another movement option to gain a short amount of height in a quick and easy manner. Overall, this is just a super solid shield fusion both in and out of combat, and on top of that you pretty much are always going to have a spare Zonai Wing with you, so you're always going to be able to do this at any time during your playthrough, and there really is no downside to not have a wing shield. This next fusion is a little bit flashier, as well it's a flashbang. But yeah, this next fusion is one that makes combat a whole lot more interesting, and it's the Dazzle Fruit. Actually, this spot isn't just the Dazzle Fruit, it's also a couple of other single-use shield items that I think just each are as useful as each other. These include the Elemental Fruits, Puff Shrooms, and Muddle Buds, and of course Dazzle Fruit. By attaching any of these items to your shield, you can play much more defensively, as when a monster attacks your shield, the effect of the attached item will go off. This can come in handy in very sticky situations, as having a Puff Shroom or something similar going off can change the tide of the battle. Another fun way of using these items is by shield jumping to activate them. You can jump into a group of enemies with a Puff Shroom for a more sneaky attack, or a Dazzle Fruit to flashbang all the monsters in a camp. The combinations you can do with these single-use items are pretty much endless, so give some of these a shot in your own game. I'm pretty sure everyone loves shield surfing, but wouldn't it be so much better if we were able to shield surf anywhere? Well, you actually can, and the item that lets you do this is the most powerful item in the game. That's right, it's the Icy Meat. By simply fusing a slab of frozen meat to your shield, it allows you to shield surf wherever you want with barely any friction. This makes traveling around areas so much more fun, especially in places like Eldin, where it's quite rocky and not the best place to shield surf. Meat is such an easy item to come across, and all you need to do to turn it into Icy Meat is to either leave it in the snow or use any ice elemental item on it. The fusion comes in handy when you want to get around faster in hilly areas, or you can even just use it if you enjoy shield surfing. As well as just moving around the map super fast, you can also perform some fun trick shots by sliding through enemy camps, or by using it as an escape option. Overall, this is by far the funniest fusion because of how outlandish this actually is. I mean, you're surfing around on a slab of meat, what more do I have to say? While the previous fusion was all about horizontal movement, the next fusion helps in both combat and vertical movement. By fusing either a bomb flower or an explosive barrel, you gain a pocket rocket jump, or if used in combat, a one-way explosive weapon that's a lot of fun to use. Going into the movement side of this fusion, by shield jumping with the bomb on the shield, it will cause an explosion underneath you, which will give you a larger jump than usual without damaging Link in any way. This comes in handy quite a bit, both around Hyrule and even for solving puzzles and shrines. Take this one shrine for example, which I'm yet to see a single person do normally. By using the bomb shield, it allows you to skip the entire puzzle, and this is just one example of a shrine in which it comes in handy for. This fusion is also super useful in the any percent run, being used multiple times to gain quick height in several areas, and even sometimes used specifically with angled geometry to launch at unique angles. This can also be used in combat as both a weapon and to easily enter bullet time due to how high up it puts you into the air. By letting an enemy hit your shield, it will cause the explosion to go off, damaging any nearby enemies while keeping you completely safe from the large explosive radius. This is a super fun addition to combat, as it's a surprisingly safe way to use explosions, seeing as using them in other ways will often leave you taking some damage or even dying. It's also quite funny to jump onto enemies' heads with large explosions, and then while in the air enter bullet time to snipe all the now airborne enemies. This fusion deserves the number 2 spot alone for how many cool ways you can incorporate it into combat, and on top of that it's a super useful movement mechanic for skipping puzzles or even in the use of speedruns. Here are a few cool fusions that I didn't think were all that useful but can have their moments. Any of the Zonai weapons, the bomb launcher, laser gun, flamethrower and so on, can be attached and used on a shield, but aren't always that helpful as they can be quite hard to control, but they turn your shield into an offensive weapon either way. Similar to bombs, springs can launch you up into the air when shield jumping, but aren't as common as bombs and don't explode of course. You can attach any sort of spiky object to your shield, which will basically just give it a lesser Lionel shield effect, where you are able to damage enemies with it. And the final honorable mention goes to big objects just because it looks funny shielding with a massive wall fragment, and I suppose it might come in handy for something like a single puzzle, but mainly just because it looks funny. The single best fusion for your shield has to be the simple Zonai rocket. This was by far my most used shield fusion across my playthrough, as this fusion pretty much just allows you to use Revali's Gale whenever and wherever you want. And if you have played Breath of the Wild, you already know how useful Revali's Gale was in that game for quickly moving around the map or scaling large mountains. The rocket shield in this game will launch you high up into the air for a single time, but seeing how easy it is to get rockets from the Sky Gacha machines, you pretty much will always be able to use this fusion as many times as you want. This fusion can easily break puzzles and shrines, or allow you to easily traverse difficult terrain like mountains or sky islands. Keep in mind, if you did want to use this inside the shrine, you're going to have to fuse it on the outside first, as you can't actually use Zonai devices inside shrines. Another large reason why rockets are so useful is for exploring the depths, as the terrain down there can be very intense, and often will have large walls or pits to traverse, especially towards the outskirts of the map. Using rockets is a great replacement of Revali's Gale, and due to how useful it can be in several scenarios, it gets the number 1 spot. Hope you guys enjoyed these fusions, and make sure to subscribe for more Zelda videos. If you like Zelda fusions, click the video on the screen to find out what the best arrow fusion is in Tears of the Kingdom.